Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming back yet again to Proof of Delivery. This is the DAT podcast where we talk about what's happening in the market within DAT and, most importantly, what we're delivering to our customers. Got to give Ken credit for that name. I was thinking about it last night. It is very, very clever for those of you who haven't caught on. Obviously, POD, document in freight, but it's like a podcast as well. So
it's also a great early 90s alt rock band. If you remember Youth of the Nation, one of their hits, We Are the Youth of the Nation. You know?
I can't say that's up my wheelhouse, but I have a feeling our guest today, Bill Driegert, will know what you're talking about. So very excited to pull him on in a couple of minutes to talk about the big news of the last couple of weeks, which was our Convoy platform acquisition. You might have seen a couple of things already about this out there in the ether on LinkedIn, some emails from us, but we're excited to have Bill on to really hear the story of what's happened, what he's excited about, his early impressions of DAT, and where we're bringing this bad boy. We think this is going to be truly transformational for brokers and carriers, so we're so excited about that. Before we do that, we just want to touch on a couple of things that have been happening out in the market. And Ken, I'd love to hear from you about your big visit to Ease last week. And I hope a number of our listeners caught the live stream that you guys did from Ease HQ.
Yeah, I've felt in the last few weeks like Robin Williams' character in Jumanji. You know, you got the beard. He's like awakening from all that time. It's like we've been in deal mode for like a year. And so last week I was super excited. We had it on the calendar for a while. My team, my leadership team, my directs all came to Columbus, Ohio. Pure coincidence, much like our headquarters in Denver. It was pure coincidence that we selected Columbus, and we had a great time. We had a bunch of team stuff, but the most important thing, we got to visit Ease, and it was awesome. Their headquarters is super cool. We went to a Columbus Crew game where they were in a shootout with Toluca, which was really, really cool. I got to meet Vivek Ramaswamy, which is also pretty cool.
How did that happen? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, he's one booth over in the suites, and there was family. I don't know. So
wow.
Got to meet some venture capitalists who were out there and chatting it up, interested in the freight space. So yeah, it was great. They're really pushing the envelope there, right? They have some autonomous trucks that they're working on. They've got their own assets, and it was just really, really awesome to talk with them about the challenges that they're having, but all the opportunity that they see.
What do you think?
It's cool to hear these stories of brokers succeeding even in this prolonged down market, which I thought was probably the best news that I heard all week, is just how they're making the best of a kind of arguably bad situation.
What led to that? How are they making that magic happen?
So they are extremely curious, which we all hire for here. I think all good leaders who hire curious people are doing it the right way. They're very curious. They're looking at a bunch of different data sources. They're incredibly relationship driven. So they've got relationships with a few really big shippers, I think, that bodes really well from them. But they're just looking at data in new and different ways. Moto, who we do a lot with over there, he's looked at new ways to use our market conditions index that our team hasn't even thought of. Right. So just looking at like how it's changing over time, and by day of week, they're able to meet the customer demand. One of the cool things they mentioned too was one of the shortcomings. I don't want to give away too much of their secret sauce, but basically like they're always available when a lot of brokers maybe aren't. So they're still of a size and a customer focus where they're always on, always available. And I think in a non-asset driven operation, that's a huge differentiator. So it was awesome. The panel was really, really great. And it was just overall, I walked away from last week just super excited and re-energized.
Well, let us know if you're out there watching, you want us to come pay you a visit. We are eager to get out into the field, which, speaking of, if you're in the Chicago area, the second week of September 7th through 9th, we're going to have the entire DAT account management and customer success team on the broker side in Chicago running our Engage event. We've got a happy hour happening on the 7th at 4 p.m. in River North. But more importantly, we're going to be spending the week getting into as many brokerage offices as possible. So reach out to your rep if you're interested in having some of us come by, and we're looking forward to it.
It's the best, right? I mean, even like my team, I brought any manager and above I invited out, and you see some like product analysts. So like, why am I going to see a customer? And like they're asking questions because they're in an AI deployment about like how do you monitor success and usage and seat management. and that person was able to just like really lean on their expertise. So it was it's always fun to go visit. I've yet to meet a single employee that hasn't come away with a positive experience when they get to go meet with customers, because it's the best part of our job.
Right on. All right, well, let's get to the main event here. I'm really excited to bring on Bill, our new coworker of 10 days, and to hear a little bit more from him about the acquisition that's happened over the last week or two. So, Bill, before we pass it over to you, I just want to share how excited I am about not only the opportunity to work with you and the entire Convoy platform team that's come over, but just the opportunity we have here to kind of make the white whale of scaled digital freight matching, which I know you wrote your blog post about it. Everyone has been talking about for probably 15 years. I think we finally have the two key ingredients ready to bring this together to enable brokers to actually automate some of that work so they can spend more time focusing on, what makes them different, servicing their shippers. So I'm so excited to get into that and really dig into why we did this and where we're going with it. But I think we're going to look back in 10 years and this is going to be the transformational combination that moves the brokerage tech business forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I told somebody yesterday, I feel like this is the final stop on a journey that set in motion 15 years ago. This is the place it's going to happen. It's pretty exciting to be here.
Well, let's start with that. Before we get into kind of the nitty gritty, can you give us a quick background on yourself? But more importantly, kind of than where you've been, what's motivated you, and how has this journey led to this final stop, perhaps?
Sure. I'll start earlier in my career journey, because I think I first fell in love with the idea of operations and logistics when I went to Frito-Lay back in 2000. And I was always, I'd say, fairly technical. Initially, I thought I was going to get into computer science to do pure engineering. But as soon as I started at Frito-Lay, I was going to manufacturing facilities, going on the ground, like building stuff and planning software and seeing it actually go into practice in the real world. And so I think that connection of technology and real world is always like that love was seeded very early in my career. I came into brokerage by way of Jeff Silver, who recruited me in Coyote early on in their journey. And at first I was probably a little bit like, trucking, because I had one of those cushy office jobs, developing models, being able to go to plants like at Pepsi. It felt very safe, and going into a startup at Coyote was a big leap of faith. But ever since then, I've really it's all been about technology and logistics. At Coyote, I was very focused on the technology. Clearly, when we started Uber Freight, that was about bringing a very new operating model to market at scale, which was Uber for Freight. And of course, we went head to head with Convoy all throughout that. So that idea of an Uber for Freight or app-centric trucking really started in probably 2011 or 2012, once Uber became a thing and people understood the opportunity to take technology to change real-world operating models. It really started accelerating. But for me, that's like, I'd say the motivating factor since early on was just how can we change this industry with technology? And it's such a massive part of the economy, and as a result, it's also a slow-moving industry because it's so big. It's got a lot of momentum. So this journey, I knew early on it was going to be a multi-year, even multi-decade journey. And so seeing this vision specifically get realized and come to market now be on the main stage, that's very motivating.
So, Bill, can you walk us through kind of the reconstitution of Convoy at Flexport and then kind of transitioning over to DAT? How do you, because you were kind of in the catbird seat for all of that.
Yeah, so this, Ryan and I both knew Dan previously. And so I started getting pinged. It was a Thursday morning, started getting pinged about Convoy when they went through the wind down, and like early AM, and reached out to Dan. And then Ryan and I got on the phone with Dan very early on. And it was clear, and they were dealing with the bank. It was very clear the bank just wanted to shut it down, sweep the cash, take the AP and just recover their debt. And Dan was trying to find a solution for the technology. Like, how can this persist? How can it have a next life? And so he worked with the bank to package up just the technology and then sell that as an asset sale. And so we acquired the technology, but it was no business, no nothing. The bank had kept that and maintained that. And so we had to restart it. So it's like buying a broken F1 car, like trying to rebuild a team around it, because it's this massively invested technology. And we knew too that we needed to do it in a much more profitable way. So from day one, it was how do we build a business around this, and how do we start pursuing what the highest potential of this technology is. And we had to go rehire a team. So there had been some transition team because the bank wanted to keep it running, and so we were able to capture some people that hadn't fully transitioned off, but we had to go back to market and kind of rebuild this team. What we did in that process, though, is we got a bunch of true believers, very senior engineers, people that also bought into the mission and wanted to see this technology have a second life, and I think had a huge pride of ownership in what they had built, because you had this incredible system that I think nobody involved in this transaction wanted to see it just go to waste, right? There was clearly an opportunity here. So we finished the acquisition. It was a pretty quick turnaround in terms of the acquisition, given how lightweight it was and we weren't buying a business. And so we took it, and then it took us from about this. So the team formally started at the beginning of December. So it took from December to February to relaunch it. And because it's this legacy tech, we had to rewire everything, get new contracts. We had to, they had a lot of opportunity to streamline it, right? To cut old code or unused code. And it was a much smaller team managing it. So a team that was roughly, 1/15 to 1/20 of the size of the team that had built this when it was at full scale. Just as an example, you'll appreciate this. There was something like 125 ML models running at one point, and just the platform cost to turn it on was massive. And these are like real-time ML models. So it had an incredible amount of just overhead to turn this thing on, which we also had to streamline massively. And we then turned these models back on one by one, incrementally, even post-launch, versus just transferred all over. So there was a lot of work there. The team was incredibly motivated. And again, it was senior engineers who knew this code top to bottom. So the pace at which they could work was just incredible. We were able to turn it back on in February. That first year, from a business perspective, was like, what's going to work here? Where's the value? Right when we made the acquisition, Dan was very clear. He thought brokers is the market. You gotta make this generalized. They had started to get a lot of traction on Convoy for brokers. I was a believer in that. I thought ultimately this tech was going to have a lot more impact if we could bring it to everybody. I thought that, and I had already started to shift my mind that was the next phase of this, is where you got to democratize the tech for brokers, because it's always going to be difficult to maintain the level of investment you need to really bring tech to market if you're just a broker. And plus, it's just going to have so much more impact in the market. And as a technologist, right, I'd rather change the world and bring everybody something great versus keep it all to myself too. So that's also very motivating. So we pivoted pretty quick to just make it a broker tech, and then really started scaling it in Q3, Q4 of last year, and then here we are today. Yeah, but there was a lot of work to it in just reconfiguring it to strictly be a broker tool, because the team that had built it before was there was a team of 5 in the corner that really had started to build CFB. So we had to reconfigure the whole tool to be much more broker-centric.
So let's keep pulling on this thread. Tell us more about, a couple sentences, hit us with the pitch. What does this tool do for brokers, and why is it beneficial for them?
Yeah, for brokers, it's like having an extra set of hands, like a magic carrier pod that just takes freight off the board. It automates everything from the bidding to the tracking to the payments process. And so it can take all of that OpEx out of the system and just drive a huge amount of efficiency. But also it's a capacity pool of carriers. That's really where the value proposition starts, is we have carriers that love Convoy. They want to go to Convoy first. It's their preferred place to go find freight. And why is that? Well, because it's so simple and easy. Every part of that process is within the app for them. They don't have to make a phone call if they don't want to, send emails. They can log on to the app at 10 p.m. on a Friday or 8 p.m. they're sitting down for dinner. They can find a load. They can bid on it. They can book it. They know that they have that load. They know that we've got high standards on the loads coming onto the system and the brokers that are on the platform. So they know that they're going to get a real load. They know that the price is real. They know they're going to get paid. They know they can manage the accessorials through the application. They know it's a standard accessorial table. It's a very standardized experience. And so from a carrier, it's highly valuable. And so that means from a broker, they're getting first access to this carrier set, and they're getting a very highly vetted, high quality, curated pool of capacity that these carriers are going to the Convoy platform first before they go to other options. So they're getting kind of first cut at it. And so brokers will post freight as soon as they get it on the platform. And as soon as it hits their TMS, they're posting on the platform for coverage. And it becomes, again, just like, it's really like having we've heard brokers tell us directly, this is just like it's my best carrier rep, right? That's one way to think about it, is it's like a digital carrier rep that's taking freight off your board.
So what I'm hearing is DAT is not getting into the brokerage space. We are empowering brokers.
Yeah, empowering brokers.
Correct. All right.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
You can. That's on record from Kary Jablonski right there. DAT is not going to become a broker, because that's been, I think, one of the major things. And Bill, I wanted to ask you, right? So, just observing, right? I haven't worked for any of these DFM platforms. You have. From the outside looking in, it seems that like that lack of neutrality has been a major headwind to these platforms. So, I fully believe that all the DFM platforms, I take them at their word, that there are internal firewalls between the shipper, kind of the primary brokerage, first party brokerage, and then the broker platform. But I think that's hard to sell an actual broker on. So
it is. It's an internal conflict. And I think this is why, certainly from a market understanding, there's still I think people still associate Convoy with what it was, which was a broker. So I understand where there's some of that confusion in the market. But yes, that was a real challenge. And so when Convoy originally launched CFB, that was always a pushback. Is like, why would I give you freight when you're also competing against me in RFP? And that was something, when we brought it back to market, we quickly pivoted away from. And that's why, actually, with this deal, it's even cleaner, and it's even easier to tell that story, because Flexport was a service provider, and we did have some truckload, but we were not pursuing. We made the conscious decision we're not going to use Convoy to go pursue freight, which you can imagine even internally was a little bit of like, why are we doing that? Because and that's also post deal, like Flexport gets to be a lot more PR focused as well. Because a lot of the sales reps were like, well, okay, great. Now we've got Convoy. We got to go sell truckload. It's like, well, it's actually not what we're doing. Sell it to brokers. So it just makes, like, this deal makes so much sense, and that's as motivation as well. It's like, we are now a technology company, a pure technology company. Our motivations are all aligned. We had tried to do something similar back at Uber Freight, similar challenges. Convoy and Uber Freight, had come to market with slightly similar products from different sides. But yeah, when we brought it back to market, that was a big, right out of the gate. Our sales team was pushed on that. We've got to just not sell into shippers. It's just going to be a challenge. And it was pretty easy to make that decision. And again, ultimately, like I said earlier, it's from getting leverage out of this technology and just bringing change and positive change to the industry. It's just so much easier to do that if you don't have this conflict built into your business model.
Yeah, it's great to be okay.
No, so I think that's like one of the things that I've been around this industry a long time, like you, Bill, like you, Kary. Like, it's one of the things that's like been a little bit of a rock in my shoe, is the sense that like you're reducing everything a brokerage does to just matching shippers and carriers, and believing that DAT could just like flip a switch and disintermediate brokers seems relatively far-fetched. And I think I'd be kind of insulted if I were a broker. I like the way you describe it, because it's like adding capacity. It's adding automated lines where you may have, you're still going to run 80%, with your own carrier sales and operations teams, but adding that capacity is tremendous.
I loved, how you describe ease as being highly curious, because I think the brokers that are going to win over the next 10 years are the ones that are curious, that look at this tech, figure out how it works, figure out new operating models around it. And I think we're going to see whole new ways of running brokers. But the fundamental role of the broker, I just can never see that going away, because you're dealing with this highly fragmented marketplace. There will always be room for aggregators, just because you have so many shippers and so many carriers, and your small little shipper who doesn't have trucking expertise is always going to need a partner that brings that to the table. But even your large shippers, they have it's always capital constrained, right? It's oftentimes your head of trucking or whoever's managing trucking procurement, they may never have met the CEO, right? It's often like it may be buried in the organization, or it may not be a core competency depending on what they're building. And the brokers bring that competency. Brokers are absolute experts in the industry. They're problem solvers. They have relationships on both sides of the industry, which they're leveraging on the carrier side and the shipper side, which that role, it doesn't go away because the market, unless the fragmentation of the market went away, which you can't imagine the shipper side fragmentation ever goes away, and the carrier side is becoming more fragmented. So as long as there's fragmentation, there's a role for an intermediary, plus all the expertise they bring. I do think how they operate will evolve quite dramatically in the next 5 to 10 years, and that's exciting. And that's why, curious providers like Ease, I think, are going to have an advantage. Those that are a step ahead, learning the tech, trying things out, playing with new operating models. But I do think a portion of the procurement is going to become more and more automated, but the relationships don't become automated. And the problem solving and understanding how two organizations can fit together and make solutions and create value, that's where you got to focus your time.
So Bill, you talked about, there were 150 some ML models in the original Convoy. We've got the platform up and running as a neutral provider right now. Can you talk a little bit more about what are where's the platform going to be going over the next year? What do you expect to be really focused on as you ramp up?
Yeah. So I think the most exciting thing right out of the gate is just the level of interest, right? So near-term focus is how can we bring this across the whole DAT customer base? And I think just that scaling and then related to that, of course, is partnering with all of our TMS vendors out there, because from the broker side, the experience really starts with the TMS vendors. So looking to partnering with them to really accelerate the vision there. And then in terms of the service and the scope, DAT does everything. So the more we can plug our Convoy tool in and allow access to different service types and expand the service portfolio, I think that's also incredibly exciting. And clearly the overall DAT vision will evolve in terms of how we think about all these. I know you've talked quite a bit about, we just went through these 3 acquisitions. I feel it coming in the tail end of it, where I get to just hunker down, right, and start work. And we all got to start working on what that future vision looks like and how the pieces come together. But I know we're very early in that journey, but that's very exciting as well. The Trucker Tools, Outgo, Convoy, DAT, the dream team all coming together now. Now we get a step forward in the future. That's exciting.
That kind of perfectly segues into one of our wrap-up questions, which is everyone's got an opinion about DAT. And now you've been around as a customer, a competitor, and now an employee of DAT 10 days in. What are your initial impressions?
So yeah, and DAT's gone through its own different arcs of I'd say perception in the market and how brokers perceived it. But I think we're in a redemption arc now. Yeah. This is I'd say I would say to anybody that has knew the old DAT that this is a new DAT. This is a very different company. It's a new new management, all these companies that came together, bring new culture, bring new capabilities, bring new people. We combine that. I mentioned this in my blog post, but I've always thought that because this is a super mature industry that requires a high level of expertise and it's business to business, to succeed in this space, you need a base level expertise. It's great to have the entrenched tribal knowledge. You got to be able to combine that with new ideas, particularly we're in a moment of tech change. So you want to bring in new ideas, tech leaders, new capabilities, to bring both industry experts, outside experts, and entrenched tribal knowledge within the organization. If you can combine those in just the right perfect stew, that's how you win in this space. So I think if any place in the market right now, we've got that combination almost perfectly dialed in. So I'm very, very excited for that.
We're thrilled to have you. I mean, I think at this point, I'm always excited when more trucking and freight, when Kary joined, Marcus, Jeff Clements and Brian Gill are very fast learners, right? So they're, Brian's already talking. I think he's developing even a slight trucker accent, which is great at times. And so it's just been really awesome. I think that's the blend.
I can tell you on a people level, it was the first call I had was with just everybody doesn't know was with Kary and Ken, and I've known both of you for some time, and clearly there's a trust. There's I think just an openness. And with Jeff now in the CEO role, first meeting with him, again, it's very clear he wanted to drive change. He was thinking about the future. He understood the perception and also what the opportunity was for redemption and what DAT could bring to the market. So yeah, it's a great team.
Well, we are so lucky to get to work with you, Bill. How, for any of our brokers who are watching, if they're interested, how should they get in touch, reach out to learn more about what they can do with the Convoy platform now?
Yeah, so check out my LinkedIn. Of course, you can also go to DAT or combo.com is still up as well. So all the links that you would expect, you can find more information. But yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn or X, and I'm always happy to engage and hear from brokers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We are so excited to see what we can do as we have a really fast start already with the platform, and I think big things are happening before the end of the year. But just as importantly, excited to call you a teammate and to get to build the future of this industry together.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Love that you're doing this podcast. It's great.
Thanks, Bill. Just what the industry needs, another podcast. So, we're here to give the people what they want.
Ours is very metered though, right, Kary? It's every other week. We adjusted off Friday for the summer to make it more, industry friendly. We're here for the people.
That's right. We should run a poll. Yeah. What are people's working hours on Fridays like in Freight? I'd like to see it. Summer Fridays. Are they real? Are they not?
Judging by load posts, a little here and there. A little here and there. Yeah, a little here and there during the summers at least.
Well, let's talk about a couple things that we have delivered over the last, I think it's been 3 weeks since we did a podcast. We took an off week given the acquisition. And, Bill teed us up nicely for this, but we are in a time of massive transformation and evolution as a business, obviously focused on the fundamentals of serving brokers and carriers to help them find capacity, understand their business, understand the market. But we're continuing to really focus on product innovation and making sure that we're staying true to our word of we are committed to delivering value, new ways to our customers. And one that just launched that I think we officially kind of went live a week ago that we're already seeing a ton of traction on is our first new IQ product, if you will, in a while, our shipper spot rate. And everyone should go check out Miles McKee's LinkedIn. He's one of our sales reps here. He's been posting some really interesting data on what he's seen here and how different that shipper spot rate actually is from our historical spot rates or broker carrier spot rates. Ken, any thoughts on or interesting ways you've been seeing customers already using this out in the wild?
Yeah, I think the primary use case is what we expected, right? Which is margin benchmarking. And to assume that margin's the same on a head haul, back haul, an inbound and outbound lane, it's just... Now, look, there's brokers that have grown to over $1 billion by adding 15% on top of whatever their carrier sales department was able to achieve. So I'm not knocking that method. But I think in this day and age, there's a lot more advanced margin strategies that you can do to win more freight, perhaps in those lower margin areas, and then maximize your yield in those higher margin areas to offset it. So I think that's what we're seeing. Brokers and calculators, they don't always have them nearby. So like some of the early feedback is, hey, can you help me actually calculate the implied margin here? So our product team was just working on that this morning. Some of you may see the rate agent beta as a kind of out in the wild A/B test. So it's a little tab on the right-hand side. You might miss it if you're moving too fast, but if you expand that, you can ask our AI a bunch of questions. That's fun debugging. This is going to be probably our lives for the next few years as technologists, is debugging AI and turning these knobs and dials. But yeah, I think it's really, really cool to be able to do this. Yeah.
Another big one that I put up a LinkedIn post about this probably 2 weeks ago, and I got a ton of inbound about what the heck, how did I not know about this, is that we've released a ton of new capabilities when it comes to equipment types. I've obviously only been a DAT for 8 or so months, but I think this probably has to be the number one requested piece of product feedback is how do you make this platform better for freight types outside of the kind of standard van and reefer space. So we went live. This actually started with a Sprinter van test probably 5 months ago, where we were running some just quick tests. We were massively oversubscribed, hit our month, kind of first month product targets within a single day. And we knew we just had to accelerate on the flatbed side and make sure that we had the right sort of components available for folks to search and post on. So that is officially live as well. Ken, any thoughts on that as someone who's been here for a long time and just the ability to now actually deliver a really strong flatbed product?
Yeah, I think you kind of bury the lead a little bit. So so we still had a lot of flatbed volume, but a lot of that business was handled in the comment section. So where also does a lot of like fraud and nefarious behavior happen? The comment section. So like our AI team has swarmed on that comment section. And we have a bunch of ML models that just went into production to alert when we're seeing activity there. But this moves it out of that free-form text and makes it a much more consistent experience, which allows us to give you reporting on it. It makes it a much more convenient experience for carriers. Instead of like having to read all the comments, they can just filter and sort. So yeah, I think it's probably been, as long as I've been around DAT, the number one, because you could do partials now too. And like sprinter vans and cargo vans are very different pieces of equipment. So I think it's going to be a really good thing for carriers, and probably makes brokers' lives a lot easier too.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I know we continue to get more feedback about we need one extra letter in the comments field. So we're going to continue to optimize and make sure that we've got enough detail in there, and that you're still able to get all the specificity you need out onto the board. But super.
Why don't we have hopper bottoms? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to get some of the crazy equipment types, but we'll get there. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's like a lot harder than it looks, because it has to integrate. Like when you have the thing that I didn't appreciate when I joined DAT a while ago is just the absolute enormity of the scale of the system. When you have over 1 million load posts a day, it's not as simple as just like right click, drop down, add equipment type. It's actually a much more complicated back-end system. So our thank you to our engineering and product teams for getting that out for our customers.
Yeah, what's so, and just shout out to our engineering team. What is also really, not to flex a little bit here, but the stability of the system as we've continued to release this product and these new features has continued to increase. We had a month of basically 100% availability last month, I believe. So, we've really stabilized the system. We know that was a piece of feedback we got over the last couple of years, that you guys go down, it's like our utility's out. So we really need to stabilize. We're stable, and now we're also releasing new products. So the wheels are turning around here.
Yeah, the sarcastic, snarky person in me has to like be fully restrained when people still make the DAT is down jokes, because I think we've run like multiple months in the last couple quarters. We've been at 100% uptime. I don't think we've fallen out of 3 or 4 nines. Knock on wood. I'm gonna stop talking, because I believe in technological karma. But again, kudos to our product and tech team, because we've had really, really great improvements in platform reliability.
Yeah. Last thing to touch on, for anyone who's using OTM out there, we've now fully integrated with OTM, so Oracle Transportation Management. Get in touch with your rep if you're looking to better use and ingest data within OTM. It's something we know a lot of our shipper customers have been asking for a while. So excited to continue, just like we're continuing to double down on the broker TMS integrations, like Bill mentioned, especially with the Convoy platform. We've been doing that with Trucker Tools. We continue to want to give our shippers access to our products in the right spaces.
Yeah, I want to give a huge shout out to Redwood Connect, who's our integration partner there. We kind of did a co-branded thing at Oracle SIG event last week. I wasn't able to be there because I was with my team in Columbus, but from everything I heard from both Redwood and our team, it was like a tremendous success. It was a great event in general. Shippers are obviously very, very interested in streamlining their connectivity and integrations. So that's been on our radar for it's another one. Equipment types and shipper TMS have been like DAT bingo words for a long time. And to be able to cross 2 of those things off our list in basically a month and a half has been pretty cool.
Yeah, rock on. All right, that's all I got. I mentioned how we're going to be in Chicago. I am in Chicago right now, but the whole team will be coming to me. Thank you. In
a good feeling.
Weeks. Yeah, it is a great feeling. So we're looking forward to that. Anything else on your mind, Ken?
I'm super grateful for our customers. This is the second acquisition where we've had a fully subscribed day one wait list. Outgo and Convoy both had 100+ customer wait lists. Our customers were kind enough to welcome us into their offices and kind of talk about what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. And I think that's a pretty rare experience that I don't want our teams to take for granted. When customers go silent, I think that's when you have to worry. When they're not telling you what you're doing wrong, that becomes problematic. So we love the good with the bad. And I can't say enough how grateful I am for such a great collection of customers and partners. We're very fortunate. Keep
the feedback coming. Our LinkedIn DMs are open. All right.
Football this month, Kary. Big month.
Football this month. That's scary. I always get a little itsy when it comes to August because the summer goes so fast here, but it will be a fun fall.
We got to get on Bill because this is my only orange piece of clothing. I kind of have an aversion to the color orange, apparently, subconsciously. So we need to get some more Convoy platform swag because this is all I had that wasn't either DAT blue or Ohio State scarlet. Pretty much all I wear.
I was actually going to say to you at the beginning of the episode, I don't think I've ever seen you in orange, but I thought that might be kind of a weird thing to say to a coworker. But
it's subconscious because I'm like looking through my closet this morning and it's all like red, blue, or like some color with a blue accent for DAT. I don't have
like a cartoon character. You wear the same thing every day.
I mean, I don't hate it, but it works.
Oh, it makes it easy. Cool. Well, that's it. I'll be out for our next pod in 2 weeks, getting married. So Ken will have to hold down the fort without me, and looking forward to seeing everyone in early September.
All right. Thanks, everyone.